So I mean, like this is now setting up, for at least maybe a breakout attempt,
It does look that way.
because this is kind of the pattern that we usually see where, there's a big balance and then there's a small balance close to the upper edge of the big balance. And then when the market breaks out, it ends up being like this multi-time frame breakout, right? And
Yeah, a big deal.
that ends up being a big deal. But well, the thing is that, whatever the market does here between 72 and 80 is going to be a big deal. Now, whether that's a breakout and it's successful, that'll be a big deal. But if it's a failed breakout, that'll also be a big deal.
Yeah, like it was earlier on in
Yeah,
the same balance area.
yeah. So we don't have to predict that, oh, there's going to be a breakout, right? Because that is a recipe for getting blindsided.
Well, we know what's going to happen. We just got no clues to when.
Yeah. But we know that there's going to be something that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Now, either it's going to be a successful breakout, in which case we go with it, or it's going to be a false breakout, in which case we should still be flexible enough that when we see it being a false breakout, we short it. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not predicting and saying, oh, there will be a breakout and it will work. Because we don't know if it's going to work. It might not be successful. But
Right.
you don't have to know. The main thing to know is that, hey, a directional move is in the works, one way or the other. If it breaks out, it's going to be a multi-day balance breakout, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't break out, or if it fails to break out, or if it tries to break out and fails, well, then it's a larger time frame, failed breakout, which can have bigger implications as well.
And there could be a lot of people running for the door.
Yeah, I mean, that could lead to, if the market fails at, anywhere in the 72 to 80 area, it tries to break out and fails, I mean, it could easily come back down to 44. Yeah, so basically, we can see that, this is that one, large balance area that I'm talking about,
Yep. Yep.
right? And we're kind of at the edge of it. And
Mm-hmm.
now what we've done is, we have established a new balance at the edge of the bigger balance, right? So we're now balancing at the upper edge of this. So
Mm-hmm.
now, the next, and it helps to visualize this stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the balance we're dealing with, right? Over here.
Yep.
And so now what can happen? What can be the next kind of move here, right? Well, there are a couple of possibilities. One thing that could happen is we get a breakout, right? Like tomorrow or something or whatever, maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday, I don't know when, but let's say we get a, balanced breakout, and then where could we go if we get a balanced breakout? Well, I mean, we could easily go up to like this, this kind of breakdown area around the not 19, I would say 18 to 23 or 18 to like maybe 26 or something. Like this area would be within the range potential to then get tested, right?
Yep.
So one option is that it looks like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another option is that it tries to break out, right? But fails to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So it tries to break out, but it ends up being a wick at the top,
Mm-hmm.
and then we go down to the, at least I would say the 44 high volume node would be very much in play then. So this is another option, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it attempts the breakout over here and it fails. So that can happen just as well. And what I'm saying is that we don't have to predict which one it's going to be. We just have to know that, hey, these are the possibilities, and this could take place in the next day or two.
Mm-hmm.
And just being aware of that is good enough. Because then, if it is a successful, well, I mean, we already know, what does a successful breakout look like? Initiative buying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we're seeing initiative buying, then we are going to trade it based on this scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we are not seeing initiative buying and we note a failed breakout attempt, then we trade it based on this scenario, the red one, right?
Right. Okay.
But
And
yeah,
the signals of initiative buying are very high tick values, extremes, right?
tick holding above zero, printing some nice upside values, at least plus 7 to 800, AD line trending higher,
Mm-hmm.
price action kind of
Going
showing
higher.
us, right? Showing like shallow pullbacks, right? Shallow
Right. Okay.
pullbacks, continuation moves, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
That would be initiative. And then a lack of initiative would be market tries to break out, struggles, AD starts trending lower, tick is not quite holding above zero, printing very mediocre values, tick starts to shift, starts spending time below zero, or we get a strong rejection. So that would be lack of initiative. And then because of where the lack of initiative is happening,
You can
that's what
get some
makes the
response
difference.
sellers
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I mean, it depends on where, right? I mean, the big thing is that
Right.
it's happening at the edge of a balance, at an inflection point,
Mm-hmm.
at a larger time frame inflection point. So if there's a failure at, anywhere between 72 to 80, well, then the larger pattern would be a failed breakout. And when there's a failed breakout, there tends to be a lot of selling that comes in the market. 44
Mm-hmm.
would be like a conservative target if there's a failed breakout.
Yeah. If I was holding long at this time and saw it start to go the other way, I would probably bail too.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, right? I mean, it's important to have kind of that empathetic view of the market where, we're looking at it through the lens of market participants and we're thinking, well, hey, what would I do if I were long?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a failed breakout attempt at a major balance area high, a 2, 3 week balance area high. Yeah, like I would lock in profits too. Well, when, when the majority are locking in profits, what is that going to do?
That's going to cause a selling response, which is going to be seen by others, and then it'll be everybody piling in on the wagon.
Right. Right, because then, I mean think about it, there are so when you think about market participants, there are people who are already long, there are people who are already short,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then there are also people who are on the sidelines,
Right.
right? We also have to keep those guys in mind. So if there is a failed breakout, the people who are long get out. The people who are short might actually add to their position at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, they're short, but they're short from a lower price.
Right.
So they might want to improve their average price on their entry.
Mm-hmm.
So they might add, and then there might be people like us on the sidelines where we don't really have any vested interest one way or the other, but when we note that it's a failed breakout, we start piling in short too.
Mm-hmm.
So the net result is that you start to get a lot more selling pressure in the market, right? That's the failed breakout scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if it's a successful breakout? Well, then
That'd
anyone
be
who's
the
short,
opposite.
yeah, I mean, then
Yeah.
anyone who's short has to cover, right? Because anyone who's short in this market is going to have an average price of somewhere between 13 to 44, because that's where a lot of volume took place, right? So we can
Mm-hmm.
kind of assume that if there are a lot of shorts in this market, they're short from 13 and 44. Well, the further away you get from 44, the more pain you inflict on that group.
Oh yeah.
So if it's a successful breakout, now you start getting panic short covering.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, what about people on the sidelines? They see, oh, it's a successful breakout. I'm going to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
They start piling in too. And then what about the people who are long because remember, I mean, 13.5 and 44 are the high volume nodes. And that means that there are a lot of people long from there and a lot of people short from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it starts breaking out and it's a successful breakout, well, if I'm long from 13, I have a big profit cushion that I can use to buy more.
Oh yeah. Play with the house's money.
Yeah. So then, the upside gets accelerated. But you can see that this is the inflection point. One of these is probably going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't know when it's going to happen. It might be tomorrow. It might be Monday. It would suck if it's overnight. Sometimes that happens.
Well, yeah.
So that's kind of the view right now.